You're listening to the Afro Qi podcast, a show for my fellow Black female energy healers and the everyday woman who wants to heal her energy in a creative and holistic way. You'll hear from Black female healers who share their knowledge, gifts, and experiences and enlighten you on how to tap into your powerful Black energy to get the results you need to live an energetically free life. If you're ready to become unstuck, find freedom and peace energetically, stay tuned. I'm your host, Kiera Flipping. All right, y'all. I am coming out the gate playing no games. This topic is one that I really felt like should be covered first because I don't want any of my queens missing out on some very insightful information provided on this podcast. And also, I don't want you guys to miss out on any offerings that our guests have for you. The biggest, I feel, misconception with energy work is that some people feel it jeopardizes their Christian faith. Our guest today is someone who is near and dear to my heart, and I am so honored to have her today to discuss her journey as a Christian woman who is also deeply connected to the power of energy healing. She is the owner of Shabach Yoga and Wellness and offers yoga, Reiki, Thai yoga massage, guided meditations, sound baths, purpose and vision coaching, yoga retreats, yoga teacher training, and Reiki training. You can find more information about our guests on social media at Shabach Yoga and online at shabachyoga.com. Okay, y'all, I'm so ready to get this conversation started with the owner of Shabach Yoga and Wellness, Courtenay. How are you today?
Woohoo, I am awesome. Glad to be here.
Yes,
Excited.
I'm so glad to have you. As mentioned in your introduction, this is the first episode, and I'm really wanted this to be the first episode because I feel like it's just a big misconception that to be, an energy healer or to be a client receiving energy work, that it jeopardizes your faith. And when I personally found your practice, I just always felt at home and I always felt comfortable. And I thought it was just so unique, just how you are a Christian, just freely living your truth. So
Yeah.
I just want to get started. Can you tell us a little bit about Shabach Yoga Studio and what led you to create this space?
Wow. So first, thank you for the honor of being one of your first guests. I'm excited about what God has in store for you. It's been a joy to watch your evolution, and I'm just grateful to have a seat at the table and watch you bloom and grow. So thank you. So Shabach Yoga. I created the space because as a Christian yoga practitioner, it was tricky for me to find a space to practice yoga and not feel, not threatened is the wrong word, but out of place because of the images or the icons that were used to decorate the space in various yoga studios. So I was looking to create a space where people who had concerns similar to mine about yoga and Christianity and how the two could coexist. I needed that space to exist. And God said, well, why don't you create it? And I was in a space in my life where I was at the cusp of losing myself, working a job that paid well, but that was depleting me on every level. And my yoga practice was growing and growing and growing. So long story short, I left my corporate job. I found a space to create, God led me to a space to create Shabach Yoga. And, here's where we are today in this moment.
Nice. So could you talk to us a little bit about like why you chose the name and the logo for the studio?
Thank you for bringing me back to that, Kiera. So the name, it's funny. So I have a very consistent journal practice. And so when I was journaling about, how I wasn't happy in the corporate space. I said, it's funny to look back on that particular journal entry and say, and look that I had written down, I don't know what's next, but I have a feeling that yoga has something to do with it. So, and then, names just kept dropping into my spirit. And so I would just, just stream of consciousness, right? Whatever I woke up with, top of mind. And there were a few names that came, and then Shabbat yoga. One day, God just led me to highlight that. So of all the names I wrote down, there might've been 7 names. Shabbat yoga was the one that really resonated for me. And so I highlighted Shabbat, and then I went into the word and, to what does Shabbat mean? Like I was familiar with the popular gospel song Shabach by Byron Cage. And Shabbat literally means to exclaim or to make a loud noise in praise. Okay. And that was just the name that God gave for the space. And it needed to be that because I didn't want it to be something like, feel good yoga or breathe through it yoga, because I wanted Shabbat to be a beacon for Christian practitioners. Now, the space is for everyone. Yeah. Everyone is welcome here at Shabbat, but I really wanted to be intentional about the person like me who in the beginning of my yoga journey almost 13 years ago was afraid to go into a space because I wasn't sure. I wanted people to be sure about Shabbat. Nice. So there's the name. And then the logo is it's a fusion of the cross and Om. And it's funny how people will see Om sometimes, but they miss the cross, or they'll see the cross and they miss Om. But I was very intentional about marrying the two because, again, I wanted a Christian practitioner to understand that, yes, you can be both saged and saved. And for me, my understanding, Om was the sound, that hum that existed in the space that was the universe before God said, let there be light. So connecting the two was just, it was just divine. It was God's way of, again, beaconing to Christians, you can come into this space. And then right under the Om, there's like a little wave, and that little wave symbolizes stepping into the river, because when we want to get closer to the deeper things of God, we got to get off the shore and we got to really get in and get wet. I mean, like up to your nose where you're afraid you might not be able to breathe wet. So that's how that's how the logo and the name came to be.
I love it. You seem like you were very intentional when creating the space, the name, the logo. I love it.
All the way open. Yes.
Hey Queens, isn't this such a great episode? Be sure to check out the Afro Qi Healers Directory, where you can find healers in your area offering similar services to the guests on today's podcast. If you are a healer, please be sure to join the directory so that Black women can locate your healing services and offerings. To join and view the directory, please visit afroqi.com. Okay, let's jump back into this episode.
Yeah. Could you talk to us a little bit about just like your own personal journey and just your experience as a Black woman, as a Black Christian woman, and also one who practices yoga and also other energy healing? I mean, you do it all: Reiki, Thai yoga, massage, guided meditation, sound bath, purpose and vision coaching, retreats. Like,
yes,
you do it all. Like, could you talk a bit about like being a Black Christian woman, just engaged in all of these different energy healing practices?
Yeah, happily. I tell you, Kira, I've been fortunate because when I hear people say to me that they've gotten to like knock down, drag them out, discussions with Christians and yoga, I'm like, really? And I keep saying, I would welcome that debate. I would welcome that chance. And I'm like, guys, like, be careful what you wish for. But seriously, I think, with me, I know I'm very grounded in my faith. And like, God for me is like, He's not, this God who is someone far and above, in the heavens who I can't. He is daddy. He is like, I need to have a conversation with you, God. I need you to show me this, that, and the third, right? And so because my relationship with God is very personal, when it comes to things like Reiki, I even use decks, right? Card decks, which freaks some of my Christian friends out, right? And my response to them is that if I'm not supposed to have it or use it, what I say to God is, make me uncomfortable with it. Make me not comfortable with this thing, right? And nothing that I have engaged in, Reiki and, dealing with the chakras and crystals and gemstones and all that, nothing has been made unavailable to me. Nothing. And I've always been given revelation on how to use it as a Christian. and make it accessible, because we walk around, Christians especially, hurting. We're giving everything to Jesus, and that's good. I mean, that is my belief system too. But I also believe God helps those who help themselves. And we have all of these, modalities available to us, and we're afraid to touch them. Why? Because who said we can't?
Yeah.
I mean, for the real, not real. I mean, if you're so Christian, you can't practice yoga, you're afraid of Reiki, get in the word, right? You can see how Jesus touched, he healed with touch.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, the woman with the issue of blood just came nigh him, touched his garment, and was healed. So I don't say, it is the Jesus working through me that enables me to be a Reiki practitioner. I believe I can tap into God's source energy in everything I do. And so that's why I'm comfortable in the space. I mean, Kiara, even talking to you right now, Reiki practitioner, I can feel the energy. I'm like tingling and vibrating all over.
Yeah.
And that's how I know that's literally, I feel like that's God's like, soothing
like,
my aura.
Girl, tell him.
Right?
Tell
exactly. He's like, set my people free. We perish for lack of knowledge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, lack of knowledge. I feel like when people hear something or see something, if they're not familiar with it, it's just like, nope, not
right.
It's like,
with no further exploration.
Yeah.
And that was almost me. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And if it wasn't for, training for this marathon, wanting to run it, going to a yoga studio that, was Buddhist apparently in their path, because that's how they represented their area. I respect all paths, right? But walking into this path, into the studio, there was a huge Ganesh on the wall, statues of Buddha in the space. Fine. I'm okay with that, because I know who I am and whose I am. I'm comfortable. But coming out of Shavasana, I mean, I did go in with a little apprehension, right? Because people are like, oh, yoga's going to be a threat, blah, blah. And, then seeing all this imagery, I was like, oh, God. So I prayed, I asked God to cover me going in. And then when I came out of Shavasana, that last pose, Kiara, the peace that consumed me, I was like, I cannot have other Christians miss this. I cannot. I cannot.
That is beautiful. Have you personally, have you ever received any backlash from Christian friends or family members? Has anybody ever personally said anything about your practice?
I haven't. And the thing is, though, people will say things to other people, and people will come running to me like, Courtenay, this person said this or that, right? And I'm just like, defend yourself, defend your practice. But here's my thing with that too, Kiara. I don't defend, I educate. So I always tell people, I would love to dialogue with you, but and I guess God will test me eventually. He's going to send the one. I'm sure he will, maybe right after this podcast, in fact. But I'm ready, because I think, the key to my being comfortable in all these spaces is being rooted and grounded in the fact that I am my daddy's daughter. Like I'm covered by the blood, so I can go into these spaces, and I want to bring others who are hurting and seeking and searching. I want to bring them forward into it too.
I love it. So it sounds like there's a merge, because I was going to ask you, when you're practicing yoga or Reiki or sound baths or anything, do you try to separate the modality from God, or do you combine them? How do you integrate?
I fuse it all in. It's interesting because, with Reiki, a lot of practitioners will start their service by, reciting the 5 Reiki principles, right? And that is a part of my process, but I always start with prayer in anything that I do. And there have been times where I'm like, really, God, should I open this with prayer? And I feel like God's saying, if you're doubting that, then maybe you're out of order, because I had you create this space for that. I don't think people come to Shabach without the understanding of who I am and what Shabach is about, because I've been very bold about putting God first. Because whenever I get mealy-mouthed about God, that challenges my aura and my energetic self. And I know I'm out of order. I can't whisper God in this space. And I have a time maybe you're giving them too much God. And I'm like, well, that's okay. They can make that decision. If you're giving them too much God, there's yoga studios, a kablillion of them, right? But my path is that. And again, everybody is welcome, but you're going to get a heavy dose of Jesus in Shabbat.
And I think you make it clear. I mean, in the name and the logo, like there's no confusion when you step into
No
the space.
confusion, right? And there's no judgment. I think that people who come into this space because they see the name of the studio, you know, they see the logo, I think they understand what it's about, and they're searching. And I'm still searching. You know, even though I know very much who I am, I'm still searching for other ways to connect with God, because it's beyond what we experience in church on Sunday.
Yeah.
And, I mean, like yoga for me, it's worship. I mean, when I catch myself in the midst of a flow and I'm no longer thinking, no longer worrying, I'm following the breath. You know, that for me is communion with God. I'm in his space at that moment. You know,
I love it. What would you say to the Black Christian woman that is listening right now who wants to practice things like yoga, or maybe use sage or use crystals, but they feel like it goes against their Christianity? Like, what would you say to her?
Sis, you know, it's like if you look back in the word, incense was always present. Like, you know, they always ushered in the spirit. They cleansed the temples with incense, right? So if you're not comfortable with sage, incense, right? But know this about sage. My scripture for sage is that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. So sage comes from the earth. Everything is intent, you know, and I understand how sage has been used in different ways in different circles. So for the woman who's struggling, the sister who's like, what is your intention? If you are using sage to cleanse self, purify the home, the heart, the mind, that's the intention you've set. You know, hold your sage before God, pray over it, and then get to work. Get out of your own way. You know, my cousin had a coworker who was going through a divorce, a messy, contentious divorce, right? And she calls me one day and says, you know, I know the sister is going through this. And she's like, but she's walking around here with so much peace. And so I asked her, you know, what have you been doing? And she said, her coworker said, you know, I've been saging myself. I've been saying, you know, and so she called, so Courtenay, is it okay? Keish, to my cousin, you just told me that you have watched this woman walk around in peace, despite all hell breaking out in her life. You've seen the peace in her, you know, in her walk, and you're asking me, is this okay? Come on now.
Yeah.
God, you know, peace for me is synonymous with God's love, right? So I'm not going to feel at peace if I'm using a tool that goes against God's word.
Yeah.
So again, it's like, let's stop intellectualizing it. You know, let's stop letting other people define what's right for us, and use your own eyes and look and judge for yourself and see how you feel, you know?
Yeah. I know in some of my conversations with women, they'll feel like, you know, I really want to do this thing, but they're so worried about what other people may say. Well, what my mama going to say? Well, what pastor going to say? Well, what this person? And it's like, girl, if you don't just come get your healing.
How about that? Get your healing.
And stop worrying about what folks are going to think. But, you know, we're human. And I guess that does come into play. Like, what will my family think of me if they hear that?
Let them see your walk.
You know, after Bible study, I'm going to yoga. Like, what?
Hey, and then let them see you next week when you went to Bible study, you went to yoga, you got your Reiki, you got your chakras balanced, all that. And then let them see you and be like, wow, so-and-so is here. I've never seen her walk around in such peace. Let them see. Let them see. I guarantee you they will see the shift in you. As long as you're open and just, you know, we as grown women can't live our lives to please others. We just cannot. We're always going to be, you know, changing to fit somebody else's expectation and still broken. I refuse to be that woman. And I want to help, you know, any sister who feels like I need something more. I need to reach God or have an experience with God on a different level. I would love to dialogue with you, to hold space with you and help you over the hump so that you could get the healing and live the life that you were created to live.
Yes, I love this. And for those listening who want to connect with Courtenay, please follow her on social media at Shabach Yoga and also on her website at shabachyoga.com. She has some awesome, and I do want to ask you one more thing. She has some awesome trainings coming up. Gospel Yoga Flow teacher training in April of this year of 2020, and also a yoga teacher training in July of this year. So Courtenay, really quick before we wrap up, I cannot end this podcast without having you share Gospel Yoga Flow. Like,
yes, that is what God gave me, right? After my first first, time on the mat as the only Black woman in the space, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and crying, I'm trying to represent, right? I'm like, okay, keep it together. Like, no sobbing. Like, can't you cry quiet and pretty? But no, I am sobbing, right? I'm just like, because I just felt this incredible move of God. And then that's when I, was given Gospel Yoga Flow. And to be able to share yoga through the gospel and take out all of the things that people don't understand. It's a matter of demystifying it, and making it available to the Christian practitioner. And with that training, you don't have to, you don't have to want to be a yoga teacher. It's great for the person who is like, how can I practice yoga as a Christian? Because it is going to open it up for you. So you can understand, what does it Om mean? How can I chant as a Christian? What do these poses mean?
Nice.
Yeah, it's for anyone who wants to deepen their practice. And if you decide, yes, I do want to become a yoga teacher and teach Gospel Yoga Flow, that's great too. But the primary reason for that training is to deepen people's understanding of yoga and how Christians can practice yoga.
I love it. So just to make sure we're clear, y'all, Courtenay is the founder of this. Like, she made Gospel Yoga Flow. Like, that is hers. Like, she made that. So for any yoga instructors that are listening who want to learn Gospel Yoga Flow to be able to then take it to your yoga studio and be
take
able
it to your church and take it everywhere. Yes.
Absolutely. So guys, please connect with Courtenay at Shabach Yoga at shabachyoga.com to check out all the amazing work that she is doing. Connect with her on some purpose and vision coaching. I'm just going to throw this out there. She is a future therapist.
Yay,
she's already doing coaching and healing already.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. So is there anything that you wanted to add? Anything that maybe I didn't ask or didn't go over? I felt like we covered so much. We got so much juicy content, and I just feel in my heart and my spirit that we just freed some women that have just been on the cusp of wanting to heal so much on a deep level, and has just been so fearful and just in the unknown of, is this going to jeopardize my faith? And I'm just so thankful for having you on to just free up so many women so they can move forward to getting the healing that they need.
Yay, God. Come forth, sisters. Don't walk around broken. Your birthright is to be whole.
Absolutely. All right, Courtenay, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you,
Kiara. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Afro Qi podcast. Be sure to visit our website at afroqi.com and on all social media platforms at the Afro Qi. Subscribe to this podcast now so you never miss a show.